Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and let's get right into today's Reddit posts. Bully my ref? Become a laughingstock. Back when I, a 38-year-old male, was in my 20s, the person who organized referees for minor soccer in my community retired from the volunteer position. Being the longest-serving referee there, I was asked to take over the position, which I gladly did. I was happy to take on the role because my father was the convener for the league, and had taught me to ref while he was the head referee in a neighboring community. When I came back home after school, I settled a couple towns away and decided to stay involved. I never scheduled myself for games so I could step in if someone wasn't able to make it. The result was that most weeknights from May to August, I would be at the local pitches just a block from my house. Aside from being on site in case of an emergency, this also allowed me to guide newer referees if they ran into trouble. One such night, I was watching two games being played. One was a U12 match, 10 and 11-year-old players, refereed by a 17-year-old young lady we will call Nikki, who had just started as a referee. It was a muddy night, so she was calling a tight game as to not encourage reckless play, as is taught at every reffing certification I've ever been to. One of the visiting coaches, let's call him Coach Chad, felt she was calling too much and being too by the book, and yelled at her through the entire first half of the game. Nikki saw me at halftime and came to ask if she was doing okay. Since she started, I told her that referees aren't perfect, but it's important to be confident in your calls regardless. I also told her that the pitch is her responsibility, and she can remove anyone, especially coaches, for being disrespectful. The second half started with Coach Chad back yelling, until at a stoppage, Nikki reminded him it's a game for kids, and she didn't want to have to ask him to leave. Coach Chad didn't take kindly to that, and then made the mistake of entering the field to challenge Nikki. After seeing the worst from parents through reffing for a decade, I had no interest in losing another referee to this kind of abuse, or seeing the situation get worse, so I slapped on my badge and walked across the field. Also, where I am, entering the field is the equivalent to walking on the ice during a hockey game to talk to the ref. It's not done. Coach Chad, who had no idea who I was, looked relieved to have me walking across the field, which immediately made me realize he isn't just an a-hole, he's likely sexist as well. I asked what was going on. Coach Chad says, "She doesn't know what she's doing." Nikki begins to say, Coach Chad interrupts with, "She won't let the kids just play the game. She calls every small infraction. I want her reported." At this point, I was furious because Nikki was a good ref and was keeping the game safe and calling the advantage properly. Coach Chad just didn't like his team and kid having to follow the rules. I explained to Nikki I'd chat with her in a moment and gave Coach Chad the contact information and name for the head referee, me, then told him to call after the game as the head referee was busy until then. He walked away happy. I then told Nikki to keep going as she had, as Coach Chad just thought he could bully her due to her age. I grabbed my gear and sat right between Coach Chad and the parents of both teams, and filled out my part of an incident report for the league while the game went ahead. Either the exchange or my presence had a calming impact on Coach Chad. Sure enough, as soon as the game had ended, Coach Chad came over to the stands, got his phone from I'm assuming his partner, and started to make a phone call. My cell in my bag rang and I answered it while walking over to him. He started BSing about the game and Nikki until he heard me in the stereo as I came up beside him. He was angry, telling me I was going to be sorry when the real head referee found out what I'd done. At this point, the home coach came over to see what was going on. Chad asked him who the head ref was. The home coach looked puzzled and said OP. Chad looked smug and asked me my name, which I told him. The home team coach was more puzzled at this point, but some of the home team parents started snickering. I smiled, taking my opportunity to go on the offensive, and said if he ever treated a perfectly capable referee the way he did that night again, I'd know, because the refs in the league across all the centers keep in touch. I then told him to leave my pitch. He got more angry and said he was going to complain to the league, at which point more of the parents started laughing, knowing my father would be the one to take the call and run the review. This made Chad angrier. At this point, I was feeling pretty good, but the universe wasn't done with Chad yet. The pièce de résistance came a few minutes later when he realized he left his clipboard and team balls on the bench and came back to get them. Instead of hiking around a knee-high barricade, he tried to step over it and slipped and fell. leading to all the children on both teams laughing as he landed face first in an inch-deep mud puddle. From what my dad told me, Chad quit coaching after that year. Entitled parents moved my stuff at beach, got ticketed for theft. Hi all, story that happened to me yesterday. I am on vacation at a touristy beach spot. I went out mid-morning to the beach before the crowds and set up my towel, umbrella, chair, cooler, etc. Around 11 a.m. while laying on my towel tanning with headphones in, I get a tap on my shoulder. I open my eyes to a middle-aged woman standing over me, and her family and young kids are starting to set up multiple umbrellas, chairs, and toys about 10 feet behind me. When I took my headphones out, the woman proceeds to tell me that my bathing suit is inappropriate to be around her children, and so I will need to move. No, my bathing suit is a cheeky bikini bottom, but not a thong. I tell her I was there first. They can find somewhere else to set up if it offends her. She proceeds to say there's no other close spots to the water. I tell her I'm not moving and put my headphones back in. About an hour later, I decide to hop in the water for a dip to cool off. While in the water, I look at the shoreline, and the woman has packed up my stuff with her husband and is carrying it away from the area. I hop out of the water and get a lifeguard to call beach security, while I watch them walking my stuff up the beach to relocate it. Beach security and myself approach them. They try to play dumb and say it's their stuff, so they are asked to open the wallet to show ID. Surprise, it's my ID. Cops are then called and I chose to press charges for theft, and I got my spot back since the family was escorted and kicked off the beach. Karen doesn't like that I removed my rose bushes, so I send her on a goose chase. Been going on for a few weeks now. Long story short, I replaced my rose bushes in front of my house. My house. Not her house, but my house. You know, the one that I own. Anyway, Karen comes over and knocks on my door and tells me she doesn't like that I removed my rose bushes, and I told Karen I don't care. She asked me to clarify what I said, and I said, I don't give a f*** what you think. Shocked, she goes, you can't speak to me like that. To which I said, well, I just did. And she goes, who do you work for? Quick thinking, I go, oh, I work for a local HVAC company as a sales manager. She goes, oh, that's nice. 2 days later, Karen comes over and tells me that I've never worked for a local HVAC company and I'm lying. I smile and go, oops, forgot. I just changed jobs. I work at a local digital ad agency. Karen goes off on her merry little way. 3 days later, she comes back and advises me it's a crime to lie to her about where I work at. I laugh. She tells me I'm being super unprofessional. I laugh. Boys, I work for a 100% work-from-home company that no one has ever heard of, and I haven't updated my LinkedIn since I started my job. Not even sure if it would be possible for a regular person to figure out who I work for. I go, fine, look, you can go complain to my boss if you want, but I'm the GM at the local Ford dealer. It's been 4 days. No, I don't work at the local Ford dealer. Karen hasn't come back. Sure hope the GM at the local Ford dealer doesn't share a similar name to mine. Block the driveway? Fine, I'll block too, because I got nowhere to go. I, a 30-something-year-old male, had a hard day at work, and just left the gym with my roommate. As most of you know, going to the gym usually makes you hungry as heck, so I was already slightly cranky. We live in an apartment building in the city on a major street. Our building has 2 driveways, one in and one out. The clickers to open the garage will only open the indoors, and there's a button to open the outdoors inside the garage. So as we are about to pull up to the turn to get to the driveway, we see a huge black SUV blocking everything. Seeing this, I was definitely ticked because I'm hungry and tired. Since I didn't know whose car that was, I called my landlord to see if anyone had a car like that in the building. However, the landlord told me the person was chased off earlier for blocking the driveway. The landlord tried to have him towed, but technically, since he was on public streets, the towing companies wouldn't touch it. Still wondering why, but whatever. They called the police earlier, but the person disappeared before the police got there. So I asked if I could call the non-emergency number to get the police to tow it away. He said, be my guest. So I'm halfway through dialing the number when it clicked that they said this was the second time today that this guy has done this. I backed up my car and parked it 3 inches from the guy's driver's side and put my hazards on. Then called the police and waited. I knew the person wouldn't be able to move his car at all because his passenger side door was being blocked by a tree. We waited about 45 minutes for the police to show up. They asked me if I called the police, and I replied yes. They asked me why I was parked so close, and I explained the above. The cops burst out laughing and asked me to move up a bit so they could get the information. 10 minutes later, they came back to my car and said I was free to go, and a tow truck would be there in 20 minutes. Slow day, apparently. Apparently, this guy's plates didn't match the vehicle, and the plates were expired. So that's 3 tickets and a tow. I pulled into the garage up to my apartment and smirked as I watched them pull away with his SUV on a tow truck, cooking all the while. Best tacos ever. Also, the way I got into the garage is I had my roommate go into the building, head to the basement, and manually open the out garage door. Admittedly, I could have done this in the beginning, but guess I'm just petty. Entitled mother wants me to watch her kid while she goes grocery shopping. I work at a grocery store part-time over the summer, and recently a middle-aged woman and a very hyper 4-year-old girl walk into the store. She spots me and walks over to the customer service desk, which I happen to reside by. I didn't notice her at first, so she decided to snap in my face. I was surprised, but I put on my nicest face and asked her what she needed help with. She says in a high-pitched mother voice, "Hi, my little angel here gets quite excited when we go grocery shopping. Do you mind watching her for a bit?" she asks. I was surprised at this because no one has ever asked me this before. I replied with, no, I'm sorry, but I cannot fulfill this duty as it is not my job. I'm happy to help with anything else." And she looks at me and says, "Well, it is your job. You work here." I nod and explain to her what my job includes and how babysitting isn't any of that. She gets angry with me and asks for a manager. I find my manager and he tries very hard not to laugh. He explains that I cannot fulfill what she wants me to do. She then says, "Well, you've lost a customer," and then storms away. Honestly, it made my day. That is it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed, and also hit that subscribe button for more. So have an awesome day. I'll see you next time.